Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to Gaming with me, Tony Mo, and I've got another No Man's Sky discussion video for you guys today. This is actually going to be my last bit of discussion-based No Man's Sky content before the game comes out. And what I wanted to do today, I've become very bold with these types of videos. For a long time, I didn't think anyone wanted to see stuff like this, but you guys have proven me wrong time and time again. I want to provoke you. I want to provoke you to turn on your brain, get all of the juices boiling at just the right temperature, and start to cook up some thoughts in your mind. Because this is something that I've been thinking about for probably the last 3 months. I've discussed it with my brother, and now it's time to share it with you guys and see what you have to say about this whole angle. It's a lot of theory stuff. We're very much theory crafting here, and obviously we could potentially answer this better when the game was out, but I'm not really looking to answer it today. I'm merely looking to pose the question and to lay down some facts and some opinions and some angles, again, to build this theory. On the subject of, as you may have already noticed from the title of this video, playing No Man's Sky forever. So the idea of playing No Man's Sky, maybe not even forever, but for a ridiculously large chunk of time. Now, when I think of games where people have spent the most amount of time in a world that is somewhat infinite, but in most ways finite, I immediately think of Minecraft, and I think a lot of people do. The amount of time that people have put into Minecraft is absolutely insane. I myself have definitely hit the 1,000-hour mark in my time with Minecraft across the PC version as well as the Xbox version when it came out. Playing with groups of friends in 2 different areas, friends who didn't have PCs, friends who had PCs, not to mention the different servers that we function on, the different, types of gameplay that we did within those servers, whether it was just free world building or whether it was like an adventure mode type thing that we put together. Minecraft has offered an insane amount of time and experiences for a lot of different people. Now, a big part of that for Minecraft, especially on the PC when you could generate a much larger space, was just that. You were generating these seeds, essentially, that had different biomes, that were shaped differently. But at the end of the day, when you look at Minecraft, it's all still very much the same. Like, one biome has this many things. The terrain varies. There's not a whole lot going on, though, to make it seem incredibly unique. Yet, myself and my friends, we would sit down for 100+ hours, build a city together, make an underground lair, build, something behind a waterfall, whatever. The list would go on and on with the things that we would do. And then when we got tired of that, we'd get some TNT, we'd blow it all up, we'd walk 45 minutes in a different direction, and we'd start again. And we did that so many times. So the idea that we had this actually, somewhat limited experience, yet we were able to personally make so much out of it. And I like to talk about tools. When we talk about sandboxes, and that's very much, I think, where this discussion fits best. I like to talk about tools. You guys know, I always say the most important element of a sandbox isn't the sandbox itself, it's the tools that the developer gives you, and then how the player is allowed to use those tools in ways that the developer never expected, or in ways that the developer did expect. So Minecraft sort of has like a tree, right? You have the player, and then you have the tool set in front of them. That tool set in the case of Minecraft is, of course, building. That's the biggest tool set. And then you could branch that out into all of the ways you can manipulate things while building or while digging through the world. Basically the idea that you can manipulate the world in front of you. That's really the primary jumping off point for that tool set. Everything else after that is, sort of the cause, it's the effect. The cause of the ability to manipulate everything is then the effect of, hey, here are all these tools and how I'm going to use them. Then you take that a step further. So now we're creating like this sort of branching out tree. You see what I'm saying here? It's almost like those paths that you get for, the 1,000 different ways you can have a bunch of different numbers go together. So the tools then branch out, and this is where the player gets heavily involved. The player now has the ability to manipulate those tools in ways, again, in which the developer originally planned, or in ways that they didn't. And that happened a lot in Minecraft. People did things in Minecraft that no one expected. For example, the use of redstone to make frickin' music. Whew, what? That's what happens when, you set up the right tools and you allow players to then manipulate your sandbox with those tools in a seemingly infinite number of ways, in a very large number of ways. You just take off the reins. You don't consider what the player could do and if that could negatively affect the game. You just build it and you let them do what they want. That's a big part of what made Minecraft so incredibly special, and again, why people are just able to spend so much time in a limited space. And that's before we even start to talk about mods. So we're going to keep mods out of this conversation because No Man's Sky isn't going to have any mods. But let's now move into No Man's Sky and build some theories. It's interesting how we can move from one game to the next, either a different developer or maybe it's a game within a franchise, and all we really ever need in order to feel like that's worth our time, like I'm excited about that, is a slew of small changes. You know, it could be putting the same set of characters in a slightly different location. It could be giving us a couple new pieces of equipment or tools to work with. It could be giving us a slightly different objective. Look at Mass Effect. You know, Mass Effect, a lot of small mechanical changes, but outside of that, you're continuing someone's story. So you're going to a different location, a new place, you're dealing with new people. Again, a lot of small changes and events to the game were enough to make the player interested to come back for the next run. And I know a lot of people who played Mass Effect who didn't care for the story. They just liked the individual interactions, they liked the exploration, they enjoyed the combat. You know, so again, there's that individual premise of what you enjoy, why you came back. But at the end of the day, it's a lot of smaller changes, right? That push people forward. Look at Counter-Strike. You know, somebody who really seriously has played Counter-Strike over the years will be able to tell you about all the small mechanical changes and why those changes were enough to make Counter-Strike feel fresh. For most of us, it's just like, dude, it's the same game. But the guy who really plays Counter-Strike knows those small changes, and that was enough for them, again, to come back time and time again, well past that 1,000-hour mark, that crazy high number of playtime. So here's No Man's Sky. This procedurally generated universe with a ridiculous amount of planets. As so many people had to correct me last time, I know. Over 18 quintillion planets. So you might as well call it infinite, because you'll never explore all of that within your lifetime. And that's when I talk about, could you play No Man's Sky forever? You know, the idea that you could play it to the end of your days if you found yourself continuously intrigued and rewarded for going to the next thing and the next thing and the next thing. So let's make a tree for No Man's Sky here. So we have the player, and then we have the tools. Again, the tools that they're going to use to manipulate the sandbox. So the things that we straight up know in No Man's Sky. You can fly a spaceship. You have equipment and weapons that will allow you to survive in harsh environments. So that obviously makes your manipulation of certain sandboxes more easy. And then you have your tools. So your weapons that allow you to destroy terrain, and that will allow you to deal with enemy threats. Obviously a much smaller tool set than something like Minecraft. Minecraft gives you the ability to manipulate the world and to build on top of it. As far as we know right now, nothing like that is going to exist inside of No Man's Sky. It's not so much about adding to the world, you can go underground and like tear it apart, but really they want the player to interact with the things that have been generated in ways that they decide, and then visit new locations. They don't want players to get hunkered down on one planet for, you know, the rest of their time playing the game. They want people to explore to some degree. So we have a smaller set of tools. But the big kicker comes from how the sandbox is going to work in No Man's Sky. So this is an instance where the sandbox itself, you know, is offering those additional layers for the player, more so than the tools that have been given to the player. Now this is where we have to just ask a big what if. Out of all the things we've seen for No Man's Sky, we've seen some pretty unique locations, some pretty unique creatures. But will those elements be unique enough after the 6th planet, or the 7th planet, or the, you know, 8th biome, or the 10th biome, or the 30-hour mark, or the, you know, 10-hour, even the 5-hour mark? Will they be unique enough that when that player arrives to that new creature, that new planet, they say, whoa, cool? That's the big question, is how long will that whoa, cool factor last for? Because if it can last for an individual, maybe a certain number of individuals, I'm not saying everyone is ever going to feel this way, but if it can last for certain people, that can constantly string them on. You know, we're talking that same thing that I talked about earlier in the video with Minecraft. Like, you're doing the same set of things essentially, but you're going to a different location. And if that location is even slightly unique for you as an individual, that can be enough in some instances for you to keep playing. So can No Man's Sky string us on from point A to point B to point C, well past the available alphabet in the English language, to keep you playing the game time and time again, to always make you feel like you're doing something different in that location? And of course, we can talk about that toolbox, because I think No Man's Sky, and this is why I talked about that cooperative video, is a game that is going to give us that element of metagame. So rather than giving the player direct tools to, say, take pictures of wildlife, or to become someone who discovers different fauna on different planets, or who researches aliens, you know, species, they leave it up to the player. So one person could open up an Inger or an Instagram account and be a wildlife photographer inside of No Man's Sky. More than a wildlife photographer, you're discovering and naming these creatures if you wanted to, essentially. And you could do that for as long as you wanted. You know, you have that trading aspect. It's all about the sandbox in this case, more so than the tools. So those tools are there, and you could use those tools to do whatever you want in those different places for as long as you want. But I think it's really going to be up to the sandbox. Can the sandbox, time and time again, make that feel fresh and rewarding? This is something that procedurally generated games have not been able to do. They have struggled to do this. Elite Dangerous is a prime example of that. You could spend a lot of time in Elite, but things never genuinely feel special when you go from one point to the other. That starts to wear off very thin, or at least it does for most people. So can No Man's Sky beat that? Can its procedural generation truly make enough changes from point A to point B to make point B feel like something almost entirely new? We'll see. There's no doubt about that. We will see. But consider everything I've said. And once again, turn on the cooker, get the water boiling, and brew up some thoughts, because I really want to hear what you guys have to say about this. If you want to reference other procedurally generated games, feel free to do so. If you want to reference other sandboxes even, they don't even have to be procedurally generated or generated at all. They could be handcrafted sandboxes that have still, they could still bring up this discussion. Please, let me know, share your thoughts down in the comment section below. I think sandboxes are an incredibly unique thing, and I like talking about them. Like, again, even if they're not procedural, I'm obsessed with that, again, that connection between the player and the tool set, and just how many different ways the player can manipulate that tool set to create unique experiences time and time again. And I think, again, this is the first time, in my opinion, that the sandbox itself could potentially trump the tool set. So, there you have it, guys. I know it's Friday. A lot of you are like, Tony, why are you making me think so hard? I feel you. Sometimes I don't want to think on Friday anyways, but trust me, it'll make your weekend a lot more enjoyable. Rack your brain on this one, share it with your friends, build some theories, and maybe, just maybe, we can start to give ourselves some answers to these questions and these theories once No Man's Sky goes live in just over a week. I think even once the game is out, it's going to take a long time for us to really answer all these questions, and that may be the key to what will make No Man's Sky so special. Thank you guys so much for watching. Thank you so much for indulging my want for thought-provoking content. Let's just put it that way. And I'll see you in the next one.